The art of storytelling. It's not an easy skill to master, but when you do it well, it has the influence and power to make people feel things and to build a super strong brand. So join me this week as I chat with Quentin Michael about the art of storytelling. Hey, welcome everybody. My name is Fanny Dunnigan. Welcome to the Creator Tips, Tools, and Tales live show. My name is Fanny Dunnigan, and every other week I bring to you content creators that share their tips, tools, and tales. And this week I have a very special guest that's going to be talking all about the art of storytelling. And as I always do, I have created show notes for you guys. And these show notes have my content tip of the week, as well as a place for you to take notes while you're listening to the show, and then also my upcoming guests. So Anne is going to, and Rebecca are going to post the link to the show notes. So make sure you click on that to see them. You're going to see basically a set of notes about the art of storytelling, my content tip, upcoming guests, and so forth. Okay, and now it's time for my content tip of the week. Stay tuned. Okay, this week's content tip of the week is all around leveraging hobbies and analogies for your content. How are you going to be unique if you are one amongst thousands of business coaches, or if you're one amongst thousands of project managers or marketing professionals? How do you stand out with your brand, and how do you stay unique? And one of my tips around doing that is to leverage your hobbies, things that you like, and then create analogies around that. So, what do I mean by that? I want to show you 4 examples that I found for you. They are from TikTok as well as some other areas. So, pick your expertise, whatever that may be, and then weave in elements of your hobbies. So, here are 4 examples to show you. Number 1, I want to share with you this really cool creator on TikTok who merges Excel tips with dancing and music. How cool is that? So she is called Miss Excel on TikTok, and it's a great way where she's giving tips, and then at the same time she's doing it to really cool music and dancing. So really unique way to stand out and make something as boring as Excel, which even though I still enjoy and use, more exciting and fun, right? Another example of that is I was reading a supply chain ebook the other day for gathering research for one of my clients, and they used a bee in analogy, talking about hives and ecosystems when it comes to supply chain. So again, it's just a really cool way to spice up a topic and then make it relevant to the audience. Another cool TikTok creator is this lady called the Korean Vegan. She's actually a lawyer. So now and then she'll talk about her career stories, kind of provocative topics. And she does all that while cooking and sharing recipes and how she's creating a dish, right? So again, merging expertise with your hobbies to stand out. And then my last example is over the weekend. I love plants and I've started caring for them. Shout out to the Plant Project, Bree Clark, who was one of my guests. And I talked about the relationship between business and being an entrepreneur and plant care, how I had to repot my plants because they weren't growing anymore. And same thing with scaling a business, how you have to kind of grow and learn more and gather more skills. And what got you here won't get you to the next level. And you have to kind of repot yourself as well. So, those are just some quick examples to share with you of how you can leverage your expertise with a hobby and make it extra interesting for the audience and to stand out amongst your competitors. And that's my content tip of the week. Make sure you grab those show notes to get more tips. And in the meantime, also, my online course is always available. Rebecca and Ann, they're going to help me post that link in the comments. So if you want to build your brand further and be unique, click on that link for my online course. Okay, now to the star of the show and my guest for this week. I want you all to join me in welcoming Quentin Michael, content creator and creative director, and all things amazing and creative.
Thank you for
Welcome,
having me.
Quentin.
Can I just
How
say
are
the
you?
production quality on the show is beautiful. I didn't expect this. This is
Oh,
legit.
that's a lot coming from you. Thank you, Quentin. I take that as a big compliment. Thank you. Thank you. Um, and I mean, I kind of want to share with the audience how I stumbled upon you. And this was back in 2018 when I started to kind of get more serious about LinkedIn. And I was still treating it like a job search site. I was trying to promote a job fair but I started seeing your videos come on. And here is this guy that spoke so authentically, was so real, sharing struggles and ups and downs. And you literally like paused my scroll, like I would see you on there. I'm like, who is this guy? And how is he able to kind of like make me pause and think? And that was kind of my first exposure to you. And since then, I've followed you, gosh, over the years and watched your career journey. And for those of you that are not connected to him, please make sure you follow him. But I'd love for you to share with the audience your journey, Quentin.
Yeah. First off, thank you so much. Genuinely means the world that people support what I do. Feels cool, you know?
Absolutely. We're
Um,
watching.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. I was a singer-songwriter. I think that's where a lot of like my storytelling stuff comes from. I was a writer before that, but got into entrepreneurship, launched my first company in 2016. Had no idea what I was doing. But a buddy of mine was like, yo, dude, can I interview you about this startup idea that you had? And I was like, I have never been on camera, like public speaking, like terrifies me. I'm not so sure about this, but I ended up agreeing. And that was the worst experience that I ever had. Like I was so bad on camera, like kept stumbling over my words. It was so bad that I was like, dude, can we just stop this? Can we start all over? But after that, I was like, okay, if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, if I'm going to be creator wasn't even a word really that we used back then, but if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I need to be able to pitch myself, tell stories, like speak confidently. So I told myself that I was going to record a video every single day for 365 days while I built these companies, just talking about what I was going through so that I could get good. Both of those companies failed, but I kept recording and then really started to pop off around like 2017, 2018, use that to launch my first successful company. And then COVID happened. A lot of things happened in my life. And I was just like, I don't really want to do this anymore. I need a break. Stopped doing that, drifted for a while, launched a podcast. That led me to leading the marketing team with Lewis Howes and Team Greatness, which is one of the biggest podcasts in the world. And then now I am running business and social experiments and creating full time and doing a little bit consulting with other creators that are trying to grow. But that is me. That is my very fast
Yeah.
snippet of my journey. Yeah.
3 years, 4 years in 2 minutes, right? I am fascinated by, if I understand it correctly, Lewis Howes was a guest on your podcast, and then
Yeah, he was
somehow
the
you
first guest.
landed a job with him. Tell
Yeah.
us that story.
Yeah. I remember someone tagging me in something of his on LinkedIn. He was trying to get a LinkedIn newsletter and I was in the beta group. Ended up connecting with him over that. But later on, I was like, yo, dude, I'm launching a show. I'm expecting X amount of downloads. I've got this network. Would love if you were a guest. Here's the other guest list. And he said, yep. Ended up being my first guest for my creative narrative show that I was doing. He told me to like send him the episode afterwards. We ended up chatting for like 30 minutes afterwards. Then I sent it to him, and then later on I reached out and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life right now, but would love to work with you. And then after a couple months, there I was.
There you go. Content creation can land you jobs.
That it can, that it can.
Inviting people as your guests can land you a job.
Yeah, it's a good lead gen tool for
It
business too.
is. Quentin, I wanna show you how many fans you have over the years that are still look at this, Jake Jordan. Remember Jake Jordan?
Jake, yes, we still
Quentin,
got to
one of my
connect again.
very first follows on LinkedIn in 2017,
That's
okay?
love. I love Jake.
Lindy Chapman. Yes, Lindy, one of the
Yes.
first LinkedIn creators I connected with early on in my LinkedIn video journey. You are a veteran of LinkedIn. How have you
And I
kinda
still can't
seen
even
it
grow a beard.
how have you seen it kinda evolved over the years, right? From
Um,
2017 to now, what are the changes you've seen in LinkedIn content?
Yeah, it's changed a lot. I still feel it's very, very early, and there's a lot of room and opportunity for people to make a splash. When I jumped on, it was like the beginning wave of what we call broetry. I'm not sure if people still call it that, but it was like the line by line, overly dramatic stories. Josh Fetcher and Bamp for like at the forefront of that. Um, and that was going on, and I jumped into that, found some traction with that at the same time. Like I was recording all these videos on YouTube, and then like I think it was late 2016 or really early 2017 they released video, and I finally got access, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I've been practicing for this, and I kept like hesitating because it was like so different. I hadn't really built a successful company yet. I was intimidated by the platform. I didn't really look like anyone else, but I finally decided to release my first video, and it was about how I was afraid to release a video on LinkedIn, even though I'd done it on all these other platforms. And for the time, it went viral. It was like 30,000 views, which I had never had before. Like my most viewed video before that was like 300 maybe. So it was a big deal for me. And then after that, like it was like views were extremely low. I kept writing. I kept hearing like you should focus on text because video isn't a thing. Video is not going to work. That belongs on Facebook. And I got so much hate. Not even hate. That's not even like the right word. So much pushback. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And then over time, things started to change. And then you saw those same people giving hate and pushback saying you should focus on video because the algorithm supports it. You should do this, you know? And it was just, it was
Yeah,
annoying to me because I just don't like that mindset, like living based off of what the algorithm says you should do versus where your strengths are and where your interests are. So
right.
it's been up and down. Video does not get the reach that it used to at all, but still
Yes.
to this day it converts. Only thing that converts better on LinkedIn for me is articles. I don't even write them anymore, but still I
Yeah,
get leads from articles. Video is second best. So, and also just like who we become when we create videos and create content like that, I think is a lot stronger than if you were just to write. Personal opinion, but the platform's
yeah,
evolved a lot, and I think it's going to continue to evolve. I think there's a lot of room to grow, a lot of room to make a name for yourself because we see a lot of the same things, a lot of the same overly dramatic stories, a lot of copy. So if you come in and you're coming in now, like I think there's a lot of room to build strong relationships to make a name for yourself, especially if you do video, but not just limited to video.
Now, one of the things that I really admire about you, and someone else also asked a really good question on, is your authenticity. Um, did that come naturally? Like, you don't come across as putting on something or having airs about you. Like, you just naturally speak. It seems like you naturally speak from the heart. And was that something that you just kinda had right from the beginning, or it kinda developed over time, over your 365 videos? Because there's a LinkedIn user, and it doesn't show the name, so make sure you tag your name in there. What are some of your tips for coming across as authentic and staying true to yourself, right? How did you maintain that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think before any of that, I think it's just self-awareness and understanding who you are, at least in this time right now. Who I was then is completely different to who I am now. And like I said, the first video that I recorded, like I wasn't myself at all. Like I tried to be. I think with a lot of creators, especially if they've never done video, first time they get in front of the camera, they want to be themselves fully, but there's a wall. And typically with people I've worked with, you see it for a while, like sometimes years for people, where it's still like a wall. Like you'll talk to them and they're so like captivating in person. They're so interesting in person. Then when they get on camera, it's like, oh yeah, here are 3 tips for X, Y, and Z. And they don't have that same personality. I'll be like completely transparent. Everyone says, Q, you're so authentic, you're yourself. But the people saying that don't actually know me in real life. And I was a singer-songwriter. I'm also an introvert. So I pull something out of me when I'm on camera. Like right now, like it's not that this isn't me. It's not that I'm not authentic. I just pull that part out of me and I lean into that part. Like I don't talk to my girlfriend, like at least not most of the time. I don't talk to my girlfriend like this, you know? But I think it starts with understanding who you are, because without that, you can't really be authentic. And then when you have that, it's just practice. It's just reps. Like I did 500 videos before people really noticed. So
Yeah. I do find that creating videos ends up becoming like a self-discovery journey too, right? Because it's almost like if I click record and I say something, and because I said it out loud, I'm like, that's not what I really believe in. Like, or my head does a filtering and then it'll come out. And then I'm like, no, that's not real. And then I have to like self edit almost because
yeah.
I can feel that I'm not being real or my head is editing it. Do you ever get that?
Um, Not so much anymore, but I
Mm,
used to a lot, and I used to question what I was saying, which I think is actually really good. I think it's good and healthy to question our beliefs, to
mm.
question what we're saying, but not so much anymore, if I'm being honest.
You hit upon something about being an introvert, and Charlene in the comments, team introvert. I actually see a lot of creators that are introverts.
Yeah.
And in fact, those are some of the deepest creators that I experience, right? Why do you think that is?
Um, you know, I I saw someone else's comment. They said they're an extroverted introvert. I'm the same way.
Mm,
I used to tell myself that I'm an extrovert though, because I thought we had to be extroverts as creators and as entrepreneurs to be good, which I don't think is the case at all. I don't know. There's something about like introverts were very introspective. You know, we spend a lot of time
mhm.
alone. You know, like with that alone time, we think, we create, we do things. I think it's just made for us. Not that extroverts aren't good
Yeah,
creators too, because there are some amazing extroverted creators. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's another way of expression, and then allowing people to listen, but not having that real time feedback that can
yeah.
sometimes be exhausting.
Because content creation can be kind of a solitary pursuit, right? It's just us
Yeah.
and the camera and
Yeah.
in our room sometimes, right?
Yep.
So storytelling can really build brands, right? I think if anything, like to me, one of the main things was like hearing all your stories, your social experiments, and over time, to me, that's like Q's brand, right? How do you kind of see storytelling translating into brand building?
It's a good question. Um, Storytelling translating into brand building is a great question. Something that where my head goes, at least when I hear that question, is Marvel Cinematic Universe. Probably more early Marvel Cinematic Universe when they were just getting started. Like before anyone's like, wow, like let me go watch a Marvel movie because it's a Marvel movie. Something they did extremely well. Um, and it's not just them, because granted there are the comics too, but like Captain Marvel had her stories and her characters, and then Iron Man had his, and then Captain America had his, and like all these different characters storylines, but they tie it into this overarching story, this overarching mission. And I think what brands do, at least when they do storytelling well, really well, it's not just like, let me buy this shoe once. It's like, what's going to get me to keep coming back to buy this shoe? And they create this feeling, you know. And I think Marvel, did and still does that really well. Nike does that really well. That feeling, brand is more than, again, I was a singer-songwriter. It's more than the way that you sound. It's more than your lyrics. It's more than the instrument you play or how you sing. It's all of that. It's how you make someone feel. At least that's how I view it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like one of my people I look up to is Sarah Blakely, right? The
Mm.
founder of
Yep.
Spanx. And she always talks about how she started off selling fax machines and then went on to create, those clothes, right, for women. And it just resonates with me. Obviously, I've never met her, but like this story of her selling fax machines just stuck in my head, right? More so than like, I don't know, the materials she uses for her clothing or something like that. Stories stick, right? Versus facts and figures that might kind of fall off over time.
They do.
How do David Cause asks, you seem so relaxed. Do you rehearse? How are you so
No.
relaxed?
I'm actually, at least for podcasts and stuff like this, I'm against like any prep unless it's like really, really tactical. I just like to
Mhm.
show up again authentically for things like this. If it's a speech, I will prep for sure. So
Right.
I don't prep at all. It's just reps, a lot of reps. The first podcast I did, like I was sweating the entire time. Like I think I was like 22 years old, just
Yeah.
sweating. I was like, what if I say something wrong? But it's just reps. Do
Yeah.
something enough, you get decent at it.
I agree. We have another question from Nydia. She says, what techniques and tips can you provide to bring a story to life?
Yes, that is a great question. Number one, I would say, who's that story for? I think that's something that a lot of people skip, especially in the age of TikTok. Number two,
Sorry,
there's this
what do you mean by who's that story for? Meaning
like
knowing
just
who
like
your audience
yeah,
is?
just like if you were a business, who's the target audience, like who's your ideal client, who's the consumer of this story going to be, because that's going to change how you're going to tell that story. The language that you use, the way that you shoot it, if it's a video, like all the different aspects. If you know who it's for, it's going to be a lot easier to create a compelling story, because what's compelling to me is going to be different than what's compelling to David. Number two, I would say like there's this idea of telling details. Um, as a When I was a kid, I was a big writer. Still am, like poet too, like got into music, things like that. And I would like come up with these crazy concepts and put them in my story. And I would like share them with people. I spent a lot of time on like online forums as like a 10-year-old, which is really weird. And they're like, yeah, you don't need this, you don't need that. And I was so confused. I was like, this is such a good piece. But what I didn't realize is that the story, while it was good, in this overarching story, in this bigger story, it wasn't needed to move the story forward. So what are telling details? Even though like you
Mm,
might have this amazing piece in this podcast, does it
yes.
really move you towards a goal? Does it move the viewer or listener or reader towards a goal, towards the end goal? And if it doesn't,
Mm,
cut it out, because less is typically more. I'd say that, and just knowing who you're speaking to that's going to help you a lot when you're telling good stories. Outside of that, just reps. Like I
mhm.
think we're all really good storytellers. We all know when a story's bad when we watch it. Like I just watched Stranger Things. That is the
Yeah.
most amazing season I've ever seen in my life. That was
I
beautiful.
need
Like
to
we all
watch
know when
this
it
thing.
was so good. So
Everybody keeps on talking about Stranger Things. I feel left
so
out.
so good. But yeah, we all know, So I think
Let us know
reps.
if you're a Stranger Things fan in the comments.
If you're not, I didn't like the first 3 seasons, but that last season just that gripped me.
Uh,
That's one of my favorite shows of all time now, just because of the last season. It's not even over yet. So
so you mentioned know your audience, um,
telling details.
telling details, and do your reps. So there you go, folks. Audience, details, reps, the three elements of great storytelling. What are some of the mistakes that you see people make when they're telling stories? What should we avoid?
Um, if we're looking at video as a medium, I think a big one is just wasting time, understanding that people are busy, they have lives, and you're competing with a lot of other people. So when you're say things like, "Hey, I'm Quentin Allums, and today I'm going to talk about X," and you're on TikTok, that's just not going to fly. More than likely, unless you're the CEO of TikTok or a big like famous person, just don't waste time. Jump into it, get to the point, and you have to earn that watch time. You have to earn that like, you have to earn that comment, you have to earn that follow. I think that's a big one. In terms of like stories, I think another big one is just not having that clarity around yourself. When I first started, and I think it's fine when you're first starting, I looked at my inspirations. One of my inspirations at the time was Jason Silva. Still love Jason Silva. And if you look at a lot of my early content, honestly, for like 2-3 years in, I copied a lot of the way that he communicated because I thought, yo, I like this. I want to sound like that. But I wasn't really working on my voice. I was just copying, imitating. Um, I think understanding who you are and what makes you captivating, that alone is going to help you grow. I remember like just jumping on TikTok back when it was Musically. I had like 300 followers and I could not get it to grow. I just couldn't crack it. And so I just put it down. And then I come back to it after I was working with Lewis because I talked to one of our advisors on that team and he's like, dude, you should be crushing it on TikTok. What are you doing? I was like, you know what? You're right. Let me try this. And I took the same video that I had put up before that had like 80 views, 100 views or something like that. And it got 30,000 views. Then I posted that same one again. I got 1.2 million views. I was like, oh, like there is something here. I can communicate. I am good at this. But it was after like I started doing things my way, like communicating my way. Like I'm not a fan of best practices. Like, hey, when you're on stage, you should open wide and talk very slow. I like to talk fast. I like to move. I'm crazy, but I do understand that about myself. So when I do need to captivate someone, and when I need them to pay attention, I just slow down, look at the camera, I stop on stage, but it comes from that self-awareness and understanding how I am, how I like to communicate. I think that's a big piece of telling good stories, just understanding what makes you great. Another big thing I hear from me is my voice. Yo, dude, I could listen to you all day. It's so calming, right? Like understanding what
It
makes you
is.
captivating.
Yes. There's a soothing tone to it.
It's the late night radio host.
It is. That's it. That's what it is. We have a question from the audience. Again, LinkedIn users. Sometimes I think it's your privacy settings, so we don't know your names when we pull these comments up. But let us know. How do you tell stories in a way that doesn't run on, right? But has a storyline with a meaning that helps people feel something so they remember you and the story. And I have a mind block around that sometimes because
Mm.
we've all also been around people that drone on and on with their stories, and your eyes just kind of glaze over after a while and you don't know what the point is. How do you avoid that and make your story more captivating?
Yeah, best way I would say is one, listen and look at the data. If you look at most platforms except for LinkedIn, honestly, it'll show you your watch time. And from that average watch time or where people are dropping off, you can say, "Oh, like wow, I should switch this up. I should test this," and then look at the data again. I think that's one, but two, and probably the easiest way to combat this, I would say, is just plan out your stories. You don't necessarily need to script out word for word. You can do that if that's your style. I don't do that, but just plan out your stories. Like, what's the hook? What are you going into next? What are the bullets that you need to hit? And just planning those things out. And the more you do it, the better you'll be able to do it. Like if you give me a concept and I know enough about it, I can craft a good story like that. If you send me a video, I can tell you what's wrong with it like that because I've been doing it so much. Those reps are helpful, but planning it is huge. And then just looking at the data. I think I saw another one, like how do you get 10K plus views
Yeah.
engagement? Like it's all data. Like if I like that same video that I posted that I said got 80 likes or 80 views or whatever it was. I don't even remember the exact number. I think it was like 300. I posted it and then you could see watch time. Wow, no one watched past 3 seconds. Why is that? Okay, let me see if I can get them to watch to 10 seconds. Okay, let me see if I can get them to watch the whole video plus some. Let me see if I can get them to watch it twice through. Like the data's there. Like I hate
Speaking of
math, but
those
for some
first
reason,
3
yeah,
seconds, right?
yeah.
Like, what is it about crafting a hook to get people to continue watching past those 3 seconds?
Like how do you do it or
Any
why?
tips? Yeah.
Yeah. If you know who it's for, like if I'm speaking to, let's say, just people that want to get 10,000K views on your engagement or on your video, I could say something like, I ran an experiment and these are the 7 videos that got 100,000 views and why you should do this exact same thing. That was a little long, but with my brand, I think that would work very well. If I'm speaking to someone that maybe hasn't got their first sale, and again, I'm just doing this as my brand. I could say like, I wanted to see if I can make $10,000 in X, Y, and Z with this model, right? Like I'm
Mm,
speaking to what that person wants,
mm,
and it's about them and has nothing to do with me. Instead of saying like, when I was 7 years old, I did X, Y, and Z. Like story's great, but you still got to remember who it's for and what they want. Just like an ad,
mm.
like you're solving something. There's pain there. The story is the same way typically.
Yes.
So just think, what would they want and what would they stop for? Because
Mm,
I don't stop for most things. That's a experiment I like to do often. Like I just scroll to see what I stop for.
mm.
Um, and there's some really, really good ones, but there's a lot of bad ones
What
too.
makes you stop, Quentin?
Typically it's people that have great personality, and aesthetic
Mm,
is a big one for me.
mm.
Like I love like over the top, like a bunch of rings on, tattoos. Like I love
Ah,
aesthetic. I'm a very visual person.
yeah.
Um, it's typically not the hook, honestly, but like
Mm.
good visuals, beautiful like
It's the artist
cinematography,
in
things like
you,
that.
right?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
creative
That's
director in
me.
you. Oh, here's a great one from Dolores. She says, "Since you don't prep, have you ever gone blank? What did you do to overcome
Yes,
it
yes, I
during a
have, and I
recording or
think
live
about it
presentation?"
every day, honestly.
Good one,
Um, I
Dolores.
haven't gone blank on a podcast because
Mhm.
when you ask me a question, I can answer. I'm pretty good there. I think that's my sweet
Yeah.
spot. I enjoy that. I have gone blank on stage, and that was before I started to prep. And after that, I have never not prepped, and I will never not prep again, because people are paying to come hear you speak. It's not like I didn't say anything after I went blank. I just completely forgot everything. I don't even remember why I was there. I was like, what am I talking about? Let's go. But that will never happen again.
Mhm. Is it just kinda sometimes even just waiting a little bit and trusting that the thought will come into your head?
If you go blank,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I guess. I like that's why I do videos the way that I do. Like I have this rule, if I shoot a video, I can't stop. I have to
Mm.
finish it even if I don't use it, because if someone comes up
Ah,
to you and they're like, "Hey, can I collaborate with you? Let's do a video quick. Go." I can't stop. I can't say, "Oh, that's bad." Right? Let's do another one.
yeah.
Just making sure it's more aligned with like real life, but um I
I
think
do
prep
find that
does help
one
a lot.
take is better now. It's like because if I do more takes, I get progressively worse.
The 3rd take is typically the best for me. 1 is like, "Oh, yeah, you powered through it." 2 is like, "That's good." 3 is like, "That's great."
Here's another great question from the audience. Stella asks, "How do you use storytelling to bring solutions? And what other talents may be needed to create solutions to real problems?" How do you use a
Mm,
story to share a solution to a problem?
um, that's fascinating. I'm wondering if they're asking, like, solutions, like, big world solutions like hunger and,
Or even a business
homelessness.
problem. If you
Okay.
know your audience is struggling with something in business, let's say, right? And you have a solution to sell or a service to sell, how do you use storytelling to bring that solution to their problem?
Personally, I don't. I I don't recommend anyone sell the way that I do, but I'm very like, "Yo, what's up? What's going on?" And it's a lot of questions, a lot of them talking, but if you think about it, it's also them seeing themselves in their pain and where they're at and how we're gonna get to, whatever that solution is.
Mm,
I think what I do in terms of, like, solutions, not even really solutions, but kind of the same lane, like my social experiments. I like to involve people in them so they're co-creating with me.
yeah.
Um, but just showing that pain and then involving them in that solution as well based off of whatever story you told. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but I don't think I'm a good person to answer that.
Mm,
If they wanna put a follow-up, I can probably answer it better. I think I'm just a little confused on the question.
sure. While we're doing that, Corrine asks, when do you incorporate pauses in your videos? Or do you
Yeah,
not
that's
do
a good
that?
question. It's a really good question. I think it's the same when I'm on a stage. I grew up speaking Spanish. Like, I'm also Puerto Rican. Like,
Mm,
I talk fast. I
mm,
like to move my hands a lot. Like, I'm just
yeah.
crazy. More recently, I started doing cuts, so it wasn't just like one big flow. But before that, it was the same as on stage. Like, because I talk fast and I want to like elicit like an emotional response. I want you to see something. I want you to feel something. I want it to be like a drug when I talk. I want to take you on a journey, just like like I was sharing a poem or a song, just like a musician would. But when I want you to stop and think, it's just understanding that pace. It's just like art. That's when I pause. But I think everybody's different. Like, there are some people that
Mm,
talk slower and they're still captivating, you know? Like, I don't think speed necessarily changes how captivating you are. It's just how much you can own that, and
mm.
how well you do it. But again, it's who you are, who the audience is, and how
Back
they're
to that
responding to it.
self-awareness, right? And knowing your audience. Jennifer asks, I'm not even following my agenda because we have such good questions here. So I'm just going to go with your questions in the audience. She asks, what do you think are the main differences between a good story versus a bad story?
Yeah. Good question. I think understanding who it's for, that's a big one. Telling details, everything there is there for a reason, from the way that they shoot it to the color that they use. Whether if it's copy, like the language that they use, right? Like the words that they use, they know who it's for, and everything there is for a reason. Outside of that, I think there's like real purpose into why they're telling this story. Like, it's not just like, hey, here's the story of my life because this is my life. It's like, hey, here's the story of my life because I want to help you too. There's real purpose there. Also
Lesson
point,
almost, right?
yeah, which is why we started telling stories in the first place. Point A to point B, I think, is a
Mhm.
big one. Is there movement? Is there progress in this story? Outside of that, I think if you hit on who it's for, and you're not sure if it's a good story, just listening to the feedback.
Mm.
I think the more bad stories you can tell, the better. I would never share like all the stuff I wrote as a kid, but I've been writing for a long, 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 long time and doing video for, so I was like 17, you know? So
Yeah. And you've spoken at Inbound, VidCon, TEDx. And I want to bring in this question. Speaking of TED Talks, um, Joyce asks, on TED Talks, some of them tend to be over dramatic or super sad story. Can you just tell a real story without heartstring use? Ah, cool
yeah,
question,
yeah, you
Joyce.
can. I think
What do you think?
I don't like best practices again.
Mm.
If you're not sure if you should do something because you don't see other people doing it, I think that's a good indicator that you should do it. Some of my favorite stories are
Say that
just like about,
again. I think that's really
I can't because
important.
I don't,
Okay, I'm gonna try to repeat it
yeah,
because I
maybe
think it's
clip
a
it. 'Cause I don't,
it's really worth repeating. If you think that it's not gonna be accepted or widely, viewed or something, do it anyways? Is that what you're saying? Just
yeah,
because it's different?
if you think you shouldn't do something because other people aren't doing it, that's
Mm,
probably a good indicator that you should do it, I think, or something like that.
there you go. Yes.
Um, I forgot the
Why?
question. I mean,
Oh,
like,
the
look at
question was
all,
about, like, over dramatic sad
yeah.
stories.
If you just look at your favorite creators, and honestly, just look at the whole platform of LinkedIn. Let's just take LinkedIn as a whole. Just look at it. All the creators. How many of those creators will you remember 3 years from now? Probably less than 10. Probably less than 5, if I'm being honest. Like, genuinely remember and think about them and be like, wow, I wonder what they're doing. I wonder what they're creating. Why is that? Because most of them aren't different. We're following best
Mm,
practices, and we remember different. It's good to be better, but it's better to be different. That's Sally Hogshead, and that's true. Like, Starbucks wasn't the first coffee shop; it just offered a different experience. You know, like, and you can see that across the board. Some of my
mm,
favorite stories are just about boring, normal, everyday, relatable things. I don't think we have to be dramatic. TED has their
mm,
own formula, so I think they just attract that stuff. I
yeah.
didn't really like my experience with TED, if I'm being honest, but
Mm.
um, do whatever you want to do. If you
Why is
aren't
that?
sure, why is what?
Can I ask why you didn't enjoy your experience with
Because
TED?
of the formula, and I'm a
Mm,
misfit. It's like, do this and that. I just it's really hard for me.
mm. Here's a great question. Who are your favorite creators? Who do you look up to
Yeah, that is a good
or
question.
follow?
creators is such a broad term. The way that I define it is like it's more artist. So I'm going to
Mm,
answer it like that. And
okay.
artists to me can still be entrepreneurs. At least again, the way that I look at it. Sophia Amoroso is probably my number one or up there. Founder of
Mhm,
like Nasty Gal, Girl Boss, and I'm not sure what she's doing now, but I think like more of a coaching program. Amazing entrepreneur, and she creates too.
mhm,
Jason Silva is probably up there. I don't really consume a lot of his stuff anymore, but the way that he explains things is just so beautiful. I really love Tim Ferriss, the way that he asks questions. I think he's very intentional, the way that he interviews, and he
mhm,
touches on things that he's interested by. I'm very fascinated and have just fallen in love with like the Web3 space too. So just everything in there.
mhm.
Um,
Awesome.
outside of that, Alex Hermosi, but he's not really a creator. I mean, he does
Oh,
create, but
well, yeah, he's blowing
yeah,
up on YouTube.
yeah.
Yes,
But
yes.
like, I don't know. I like art. I like music. You know, I take
Mm,
inspiration from weird things, like how my
yeah,
dog is looking at the at like a fly passing. But like, I don't know. I like
yeah,
people that love what they do. If you love what you
same.
do, you're my kind of people.
For me, it's documentaries. It's
Mm,
like documentaries. It could be like about the weirdest thing. I wrote an article about he was the perfume creator for Christian Dior, and it was a documentary about the art of creating perfumes, and I just got
amazing.
sucked in, like, it just pulled me in, and but it was amazing, like, I
It
love
is.
documentaries. Yeah. Um, I do want to highlight, speaking of being different, you did something very unique and special, and I want you to share this story with our audience 'cause I think it made such an impact. Tell the audience about your social experiment with inviting strangers into a space and then having them share something. I don't wanna give it away, so I'm gonna let you tell that story. But tell us about that social experiment you did.
Yeah, we were doing something. I remember walking. I was running my agency at the time, and I remember walking in the office, and I was like, "Yo, what if we do this event for this thing?" We got a bunch of people, and they just started talking about it. It was like around mental health, and then my whole team just started jumping on. We add on like all these ideas. What we ended up doing is making a list of like 25, 30 people, and sending them a message. Hey, we're doing this thing. They didn't know what it was. Do you want to be invited? And then they had to say yes or no. If they said yes, they got location, time. And then we told them it'll be around mental health, but that was about it. They get there, the doors are locked. We write a number on their hand. I was number 0. And then we went all the way up to like 30 or however many people were there. We let them in. There's a stage, lights, cameras, mics, all this stuff. My team was there, a random person like on a guitar and then piano. And then eventually I walk up on stage and I'm like, yo, welcome to our experiment. And if you follow me now, like this is all I do now, but welcome to our experiment. And I just talked about how like as entrepreneurs, as creators, as people, we always ask like how we're doing, but we never really connect and we're often really lonely. And so what we're going to do is you got a number on your hand and that signifies the order you're going to come up on stage. And the prompt is, what are you struggling with or what have you struggled with? And I told them they didn't have to go up, whatever, like just if you wanted to go up. And I expected like 5, 10 people to go up, but every single person in that room, including my team who said they weren't going to go up, they all went up. And it was like the most beautiful experience. Had goosebumps the whole time. It's on my YouTube channel if you want to watch it. Like that moment changed my life because it showed me what I really wanted to do. What I really want to do is like, I want to create experiences that change people's lives. I want to create experiences that push people to say like, hey, like I never thought about it that way. And I want to create films around it. I want to do that in person via Zoom, but also eventually in the metaverse. That's my goal. But it was a lot of fun. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you saw Richard Moore in the comments, he asked that exact same thing about you getting strangers together to tell his story. Yeah, it
And
was
they
magical.
co-create with you, you know, like I
Mm.
do it now, like on my text community, I just send them messages like, yo, what's something you love about yourself? Like, let me know and why. And then they send me the messages and I create videos on it. Like they're co-creating with you. Like they have a stake in it. Like I love that. Like it's so
I
much
love
different if I'm
that.
just like,
You're
here's my story.
involving your
You know? Yeah,
audience in your
exactly.
content creation.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Um, Jared Stewart says, "If we hacked your phone, what would your
Yes.
last 5 podcasts listened to be?"
I
Do you
love
know
that
Jared?
question. I love that question. And yes, I do. I got a text from my girlfriend saying to listen to Tim Ferriss episodes, so that's one.
Mhm. Mhm.
I was just on a plane going to VCon, and I was listening to one of my friends' podcasts, NFT for Newbies, which I think they just stopped, but they passed 1 million downloads in like 8 months, which is incredible. That's I think Heather Parody and Rich Cardona. And then Business of Esports, I would say, is probably number 3. School of Greatness, that's where I used to work. That's number 4. And then I was listening to something from Tom Bilyeu, which I don't listen to a lot, but I love Tom. But he was talking about Web3. And there's probably a bunch of other. I've been deep in like Web3 NFTs now, so listening to a lot of that. And then I just love video games and esports. So yeah.
What's one interesting thing you've learned about Web3?
I feel like it was made for me.
The
After going to that
creative, the
conference, I was
digital?
just
Mhm.
I used to work in VR. Like I did just I just
Ah.
everything that I've always wanted to do as a kid. I feel like I just now is my time. So I can't even answer that. Everything is interesting. So I highly encourage you all to dive into it as well.
Here's a tactical question. What's an ideal length of video in this day and age of short attention spans? From Jenny
Yes,
Robinson.
big belief of mine is take out all best practices. I don't believe in the perfect length. There's probably a perfect length for you. If someone says make a video and it's got to be under a minute, I think they're lying. I do not believe them. They don't have enough data to back that up across the board. You should find that out for yourself. Some of my best performing videos were over 10 minutes on LinkedIn. I'm sorry, 6 minutes on LinkedIn. And I think you can only go up to like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like if everything's there for a reason, like if you know who you're speaking to and you can captivate them and you can keep them there, it doesn't matter how long it is. I will say it's a lot harder to hold someone's attention past like honestly 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30
Yeah.
seconds, and you factor in minutes. So test it for yourself. And it's going to vary on the platform. Like the mindset I'm in on YouTube is different than the mindset that I'm in on TikTok. So just know where you're at, know your audience, and know and test it.
I think it's also the trust you've built or earned
Yeah.
over the years,
Yep.
right? It's like, uh, you know, for you, let's say, like, oh, if your video comes across my feed, you've you've earned my trust, whether you know it or not, right? Like over the years, because I trust that if I'm going to watch something from you, it's going to be worth my time, so I'll watch it. Same thing with one of my other guests earlier on this year, Sherry Garcia. Do you know Sherry?
I do
She
not know.
her she helps people get second chances that come out of prisons find jobs. And
Amazing.
she talks about sobriety and her journey. And her videos are like almost 10 minutes long. And they get huge engagement and huge watch time. And again, like I think she's earned people's trust.
That's
And
all
so they'll
influence is.
sit and watch those 10 minutes with her on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. 10 minutes on LinkedIn is hard, maybe on YouTube. But and I think,
Very hard.
yeah, the trust has been built over the years. And yeah, so I love your answer to that. Uh, people are interested in what you prefer, Quentin. Sabrina says, "What's your favorite musician and musical instrument?"
Favorite musician, that's hard. I really love Ed Sheeran. I've been following him since like beginning. I love Adele. But I like all forms of music, and then I play guitar, and I used to play guitar and I used to sing. This is like previous life. I still
Mm.
do, but not good by any means anymore. But I love
Here's
piano. I wish I played it.
oh, little known fact, I play piano.
Hey, it's one of the hardest instruments to me. I don't know why. I've tried to learn it like 10 different times.
Um, John Hill asks, "How do you balance the content you wanna make and the content that will
Damn,
engage
that is a
well?"
good question. That
Because
is
you
a re
know the formula of what engages well, and then there's the side of you that wants to be on point and be different, right? But
that is
what
a
those 2.
great question. Damn, I was
Mhm.
just talking about this too. I can tell you how I do it personally, but like
Please.
I wanna create experiences in the metaverse. That has nothing. I mean, it's starting to have something to do with what I'm doing now, but previously personal brands. I built personal brands. Like that has nothing to do with building experiences. Um, I understand what I need. Like if I look at like just power, like influence as an influencer, that's a pillar of power. What are the three pillars of power? In my opinion, it's you've got resources, you've got influence, which is social media, and then you've got like finances, money. I need all three of those things to be able to do what I want to do. Um, so that is what I'm looking at. Like what's the thing that's going to get me, what's the thing that's going to allow me to do that fastest? So it's influence and money for me. In terms of like content creation though, something I struggle with now, like I started doing these social experiments, which like I said was a big pivot from personal brand and just telling stories. What I'm finding on like a platform like TikTok is that when my face isn't in it, even if my voice is still in it, if my face isn't in it, it doesn't do as well, like not even close to as well as I would want it to. So I'm just trying to find a balance. Like, how can I step more away from my content to make it more about the audience and these experiences and still give my audience what they want? So I think it's a balance, and I'm just listening to the data. So when I see it, I've run like 4 different variations on the same video. Like there's one where I was talking to creators and how they make money. I wasn't in it. Then I put my voice in it. Then I put a little stop pause in it. And now I'm going to do another one where I just show my face. And I just want to see what does well. And then as much as I can, I want to start to push away from those things. Because again, I want to be hosting these experiences in the metaverse. And I don't want to just be known for a guy that tells stories. I want to be known as, I want my work to be known for my work, not just me. And that's just something I'm trying to move towards, but it's hard. It is really, really hard because
I think though, like to your point, it really is about the reps, right? Even now, years later, right? Since you started on video, in a way, your reps are your experiments and your tests too, right? So you've mastered speaking on camera now, but now your reps are testing different formats, testing with face, without face. Like you're still doing reps in a way.
everything I do is an experiment, like literally
Mm.
everything. I've got
How do
a
you,
scientific notebook, so
well, to that point, how do you, or maybe you don't have this thing, but like how do you overcome the fact that one of your reps will obviously fail, right? Because in experimentation, things will always fail. How do you wrap your head around that?
I mean, like that's the fun part to me. Like
Mm.
I was doing some self-reflecting a while ago, and I just kept quitting things, and I was like, what is wrong with me? It's just because I'm not excited. Like I genuinely, if I'm interested in what I'm doing, I enjoy the failure. Like I love video games. Like John, who made that comment, I was like, it's a
Uh-huh.
really good comment. I play Valorant with him. Like I was looking at some footage of me playing Valorant, like when it first came out, like a year ago. It's a video game. It's a tactical shooter, and I was so bad. But I enjoy that. I like enjoy being bad. I enjoy getting better. I enjoy the process of getting better in everything.
Mm,
So even with
mm,
content, like when I put out a video and it doesn't do well, most people think like, oh, this doesn't do well. Let me go back to what does well. I want to figure out how to make it do well because I like the stuff that
ah,
I'm creating. It's just fun. And when you get it right, it's like, wow, like I've got all this data. Here's all the hooks that I did. Here's all the links. Here's the jump cuts. Didn't do a jump cut here. Like you'll have all this data. Like I just enjoy it. It's like
mm.
genuinely fun for me, whether it's a business experiment, social experiment, or just some random
Yeah.
experiment I'm doing and documenting in my notebook.
I like that. It's almost like you're treating it as a game, right?
Is
And every
exactly that.
game,
Yes.
you're going to, even watching my son, right? He's gonna fail missions and accomplish missions, right? And he just keeps on going. Like he failed a mission and then he starts all over again. Failed another
Yeah.
mission, starts all over again, right? And
It's
in a
all
way,
just
your
a
social
game.
experiment is like that. Uh, oh, this is a good question from Renrique. I hope I pronounced that right. Do you think something like humor can discount or undermine storytelling? Or do you try to inject humor into your stories?
It is a really, really good question. I wish I could, but I'm just not funny, not intentionally. So I don't. But I think humor is one of the most powerful things when it comes to
Mhm.
telling a good story. If you can do it well, I
Yeah,
cannot do it. I
I'm like
can't.
that too.
I can't.
I'm not funny if I
I'm
tried.
serious. Like, but if you could do it well, like you're gonna win. You're gonna win. Like comedians are some of the best storytellers on the planet, you know? Like, so I don't think it discounts it at all, so long as it's supposed to be there. And it really
Mm.
moves the story forward.
So, last question. I do want Jeremy had a good question here. What's your take on cliffhanger endings?
Mm.
Ah, at the end of storytelling. Do you ever leave your audience hanging at the end of a video?
Um, I don't so much, but there's a book that I haven't read that I'm still going to reference. I'm blanking on the name, but it's Donald Miller's latest book. I
Mm,
haven't read it all. I just heard about it because he was on the School of Greatness right before I left,
okay.
and they were talking about it. And it's just about like living your life like it's a story, essentially. At least my understanding of it. Um,
Mm,
I like to think of my social media platforms as my personal brand, all of it like a story, like a movie, like I think any aspect, like anything that you can point out in a movie, I think you can bring it into your content. Like, and with content, with personal brand, with social media platforms, like there's two types of people you're going to attract, or two types of people that are going to consume your content, maybe three. One, like people that have never seen you before. Two,
mm,
people that have seen you before, but like, let me engage with this. And then three, the part that a lot of people forget about, people that have been there for a long time that are supporting you. And all
mm,
of them are going to have different appetites, right? One, they just want
yeah.
their pain solved. Two, maybe they want to trust you. Three, like they want to keep coming back for more. What's the value that I'm coming back for
They
more?
wanna be part of your journey.
Exactly, exactly. So I
Mm,
I think looking at the stories that you really like, whether it's a cliffhanger or um, interjected humor, like whatever it might be, I think we can bring all those elements into how we tell stories on social media. I don't really
yeah.
do that. I think I've done it with like maybe some newsletters or blogs, but I think that could be powerful if, like you said, have enough trust to get people to come back. Like I see it on
Mm.
TikTok with Alex, I forget his name, but he's a photographer. He'll like take
Oh,
like
yeah.
we're on the street, right?
Right,
Like
right,
there's
right, the street
Batman and
photographer.
Joker, like, hey, like, can I
Yes.
take a photo with you? Like for part two, and then you go in
Yeah.
part two, right? Like, so
And
for
then they
sure.
just get hooked in.
Yeah, yeah. So if you can do it well, like any
Mhm.
elements that you're seeing in a story, like there's a reason why movies are the way they are, and all stories for the most part are the way they are. So definitely,
Anne Small had a good question to round out this conversation. At this point, Q, what are your goals? What do you see for yourself over this next year? What are you
yes.
aiming for?
Yes. Before I answer that, I just wanted to correct. So it's not Donald Miller's Story Brand. That is a great book. Highly recommend it. The book I was referencing is his latest book, whatever that is. I don't know what it is. Um, if someone could put that in the chat,
We'll
that'd be
find
rad.
it.
But
Rebecca will
my
find it.
thank you so
Donald
much.
Miller's latest book.
Yes. It's about living your life as a movie. But my, or maybe it was his older book. I don't know. Just don't even listen to me anymore. My goal right now, one is to live more life and work less. It's just a
Mm,
big thing and big phase where I'm at right now. But I think moving forward, what I really want to do, I want my work to speak for itself. I don't always want to be the guy in front of the camera telling stories that relate to me. I want to
mhm.
involve the audience. I want to involve people, and I want to be known more as an artist versus this business figure or personal brand guy or
Yeah.
TikTok creator. That, and then I really want to host and create life-changing experiences for people in the real world and the digital world. That's where I want to go. That's what I'm going to do. If you're interested in that, I want to participate in them. Just text me. My number is on
Mm.
my website. If you hit like social
What's your
experiments,
website, Quentin?
so it's quentinallums.com. I'm blanking on the number and I should totally know that, but quentinallums.com. If you hit social experiments, the number is not there either, and I should put that there. I don't know why it's not there, but the text me button is broken apparently. But if you go on my social media platforms, the number will be there too. But
Awesome.
that's what I'm doing.
Rebecca found it. Hero on a Mission by
Yeah,
Donald
that
Miller.
sounds right.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yes. Okay. The
Yeah,
hour just
don't miss Story Brand. It's a good book.
that too. They're both awesome. Um, the hour just flies by, and this one, the audience came together to guide the show, talking about involving your audience. I threw my agenda out the door, but thank you, Quentin. Wow, so many things to chew on. Do your reps, stay authentic, experiment. So many takeaways. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you, Quentin. Thank you so much for your time, expertise, sharing. You saw all the amazing comments and questions. This community loved you, and please keep creating. Don't stop. We all love you and follow you. And thank you for being an inspiration to us.
Yeah, thank you all so much. This, like, seriously, this production quality is awesome. I didn't even know there was
It's the
shows like this
team.
on LinkedIn, so
Tell
y'all
people
doing a great
about
job.
it.
I will, I will.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you, Rebecca, in the comments. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Quentin. Thank you, everyone, for all your amazing questions and comments. And remember to shine your light, share your gifts, share your messages, share your voice with the world through video. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful week ahead and weekend.